Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand, owner of the company Horns of Odin. As always, before we jump into the show, I do have to plug our Patreon. I know I say it every single week, but it's the lifeline of the show. It's how we keep going week in, week out. So if you can, pop over to Patreon/Nordic Mythology podcast. You can get a whole host of bonus material, including the Q&As that we do with the guests, bonus episodes, early access, and the entire back catalogue you can't get anywhere else. At this point, it's over 260 episodes exclusively on there. So do go and check that out. It starts from £3 a month. If you can't, then a 5-star rating, positive review wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe somebody that's never listened to us before will discover us and they like it enough to support, or they share it, and it all grows from there. But let's get into today's show. I'm on my own again. Mags was had a prior arrangement, so it's just me. And I'm really excited to get into this one. This gentleman has been on once before, I think, as a podcast, and we've done some interviews at festivals before. But today's guest is Christopher Juul, who is a Danish musician, composer, and producer, best known as one of the founding members of the band Heilung. And I think that's as much of an introduction as you need, Christopher.
Great. Can we get to the wine now?
You get to the wine. I've got my
what
gin.
Did you get? You got gin.
Gin and tonic. I'm on a diet. I've heard it's the one with the least calories.
Oh right. Wow. Yeah.
Apparently.
I should drink more of those then.
Yeah. So how's life? Your studio looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's a little crop of it. All the fancy machines is out of the window, but the cozy light remains. It's been quite hectic, both on the professional and the personal side for me. But I'm in a few months into a break from live touring with Heilung. To catch up with all the other things you need to do in a space like this. And we're working on a lot of exciting materials that I will also talk a little bit more later. Also for Heilung, obviously. And yeah, it's actually good not to tour. I must say, you become a musician and think I should just tour all the time and see the world, and at one point you just sit back and maybe it's also nice just to sit and play for yourself instead.
Do you think that's going to get old quite quick though, being at home, or can you see yourself enjoying it?
I could do 10 years without
touring. You think?
to regain some some strength or something. No, I mean I love touring. I obviously do, and I love the people we bring with us on tour, and it's quite a machinery to assemble something like Heilung and everything we need. I think we are like, including stage people and everything. We are around 50 people doing a production like that, right? And we are 30 something on the road of our own crew every time, plus whoever sits back at offices and deal with all the stuff, right? So it's quite a machinery to operate and also keep cool in, right? And I do like my gin tonic, but if I drink too many of them, the bus won't arrive at the right place, right?
Well, you're probably not driving it, I guess.
No. I think that would be a bad idea, because I do actually enjoy my gin tonics on tour. But point is, it's a boat. You are you're very much in a boat together, touring, and you very much are the captain in my position, steering that boat around and making sure that everyone's wishes are met, and that whatever crazy production and like Heilung, I often consider like a hippie drum circle on steroids, on wheels, in a theater production, driving around the world. And all of a sudden we need to make everything that Heilung is not only It is a sort of hybrid between a theater production and a rock production, but it's also a big light installation. It's also a spiritual happening. It's an authentic thing. The balance act behind the scenes is to stay real with what this is, and in a world that is not designed to do what you want, basically, right? They're used to having like a certain type of tour production, coming into the hall, doing things in a certain way, and we are trying to fit everything we do, which is of course an extraordinary fun challenge to do. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. And we are working with extremely bright minds all the way around the crew to make sure that we can do this right.
You have to be I was gonna say, you have to be a nightmare when you turn up to a venue if they've never had anything like you before. Surely they're a little bit like, what do we?
It gets better as we have done over 200 iterations of the ritual at this point. And of course, every time we learn something new that we bring on to the next one, and so it goes, right? In the beginning, when we could not afford to have everything with us and our own crew, now we bring everything just to be sure that it can work, right? Including the speakers and every lamp you see and everything we bring.
Wow.
But in the beginning, when you stand on a festival and come in with Heilung, the first thing you are met with is some very confused stage technician standing with a cable and asking where is the guitar amplifier, right?
Yeah.
You used to joke like, oh, it's just behind the human bones over there or something like that, right? but to see them like running looking for it, right? But I mean, nowadays, of course, we are trying to make, because there's so many things that need to be done. We need to make sure that the space is ready for what we're doing, right? And also to make it a safe space for like both in this realm and this world, but also of course to connect with the other side. And you don't want to do that from a construction side, right? You want to do that in a place that is safe and nice to be.
Yeah, that journey from, I guess Castlefest onwards, but even before that, when you're becoming what Heilung is, the transformation and the journey of just building this machine itself was, you could probably write 10 books on what you learned, the mistakes you've had to make just off the stage. I bet, just not even musically. I imagine at some point the music becomes the easy bit that you can make in a studio and prepare. It's everything else.
Yeah, like an optimal situation for Heilung would be just to plant us in one location and have people come to us instead, right? Because then we would be able to settle there and really like build on it and make it a home from the get-go, right? Like a lot of the challenge is to make a place a home. And sure, I'm pretty sure I could write a book about how to get something like that on wheels. But I think I'm a geek, I really like to put my brain into stuff where I can really like dive in and challenge my brain on something like that, right? So in a way, as much as it can be super annoying when you come to a place and you cannot figure out why they don't know this one thing that you have been telling them, or the crew, everyone has been talking about for months, right? It's still a nice challenge to kind of learn all the stuff on psychology around it and how people are reacting to certain sort of communication, right? I think if that's one thing I learned with this, is really to communicate as clearly as possible. But that is not only for the people we collaborate with around the world, but it's also definitely inwards in the group. Like the Heilung itself on the live scene, as many of you viewers probably know, is upwards 14 different nationalities sometimes, right? And everyone comes from a culture and a way of speech that is maybe slightly different from each other, right? So you also can't just come with your stupid Danish humor and
Yeah, I
and
bet.
throw it in the face of people and expect everyone to take it the same way, right? You also
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of learn a nice in between way of communicating to make sure that your vision for this project is also somehow uh, spread into the group, and they in return feel safe to be who they are on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we that when we do our rituals live, then some of our people specifically also look like the warriors, but I would say everyone on stage is giving 100,000% right of themselves. They can only do that if they feel safe in the moment. In the moment they think that their integrity or their spirituality somehow is in danger,
Mm-hmm.
that is where you lose that real connection you have, right? And that is something that takes time to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
Available for people.
Yeah, there's so much going on that it almost to, I guess, to an audience member could look chaotic because
Yeah.
there's things going on everywhere and it appears so, but
Mm.
it actually can't be because sometimes you have spears on stage, you've got people moving around, like you see, you've got
Mm.
props. There's all these different parts that I imagine everybody has to be in a certain place. It's
Yeah.
very not militarized, but very kind of regimented. That you have to be here, hit this point,
Mm.
and maybe that's underappreciated from the audience who maybe
Yeah.
watch, and it feels like it's kind of, and
But
that.
as much as I like talking about it, there's a reason why a backstage is a backstage, right? We don't need to
Oh, I
to
bet that's
to rub
chaos.
in people's faces how a coffee is not hot enough in the morning for the crew or something like that. What people need to know when they come to a Heilung show is that once the performance and the ritual begins, what they see is real, right? It's of course amplified like a lot, but it's real, and the way to achieve that is of course to make structure. Like everyone needs a structure to work within, right? We can't just have one of the drummers all of a sudden picking up a ukulele and jump into the crowd, right? We need them for what we arranged them to do, of course, right? But what we do need is yes, as you say, spacing where people are in a certain place, like just to have fire on stage, even though that basically what we have on stage is nothing like a big pyro show or Weinsteinish stuff at
Yeah.
all. It's like just one torch on an antler stick and an antler cannot burn, I can tell you, right? And the carpet we're standing on cannot burn. It's been made specifically for that reason, and all these things. But the amount of paperwork, specifically in a country like Germany, that's really like this big. It's huge what you need to bring just for one element, and then you can think, okay, what about the regulatory stuff for the lamp hanging up there, or what about, and all these things, right? And how do we you know how do we present Heilung's stuff and make sure that we can do it, right? So for instance, one thing I did, because I got sick and tired of discussing, for instance, nudity laws with specific parts of the
Oh,
world.
so
Uh,
much. All these little bits you mentioned, I would never have even thought would be an issue.
I almost became a member of a feminist movement in the US to that because I thought they were so cool in freeing the nipple, but because it's ridiculous, but anyway, the thing is, there is sadly a lot of Christian laws still around,
Mm-hmm.
and they dictate the laws in a way that is kind of counterproductive in terms of equality, and that we can discuss along about. But the very low practical thing that happened is that if I come with a group of warriors, which in my book and in our rule set is that everyone is equal, right? That is what we say, and every warrior is equal. We are not gonna, go down on that. And to do that, I had to literally, and with this, in the writer, in the first page, I drew, like hand drew on with the mouse on the computer, like I think 4 pictograms. So
Like
one
office
is like
paint
imagine like you
or
now I'm
Microsoft
getting
Paint.
Heilung, this big production, super pro, everything. The first thing you emit is 4 pictograms. One of them like hand drawn by the band leader, right? And like one is like a ball of smoke with fire coming out, saying infant. Then there's of course 2 tits, for nudity. Uh, uh, you can decide if it's man tits or women tits. That doesn't matter. Anything between. And then it's weapons like spear,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a torch with fire. I think. And and that has saved us quite a lot of problems, right? Because you can literally in the booking process open page 1, see 4 pictures. If anything of this doesn't really match your values in your local state or country or whatever, then it's gonna be difficult to book us from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I learned like it's really really important somehow to get the most important messages down first, right? In a simple matter. If that information had been on page 89 or something like that in the writer section B, that
Mm-hmm.
oh, by the way, we are completely equal on our warrior performances, they wouldn't take it seriously, and
Yeah.
we would end up in a situation where we would either have to cancel the show and leave people at the door, or come up with covering every warrior's nipple, right? and
Yeah.
and and that is, no matter what you do from there, you have already lost, because what we come with is something that shouldn't be kind of outside this world, right?
So are there some places that you've really wanted to play but just couldn't get past the red tape?
Yeah, yeah, there are. And I would guess it's more than half the world at this point. So we still have some job to do, I guess. And it is actually not only because of this, but also because of other things. Um, there is many places where it sadly is not possible to bring Heilung, simply
Mm.
because 1 or 2 or 3 of our um, we're not that easy to move also, right? Like, just to get us down under to an Australia tour has until now, even though we sold out everything, has always been a minus. But we did it because we wanted to bring it there, and we didn't want to compromise on who we are, and 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 not be us, right? and
Mm.
and that brings me to like another function that I think Heilung is, that is important for us, and that is to come with something that is true from where we are. And as you know, we come from many places in specifically in the life group, um, but also to travel to around the planet to local tribes and connect, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that if you are only doing this to earn money, right? You
Yeah.
sometimes have to sacrifice a little bit of yourself to reach a little bit further, and that we see and we do, right? And we have done so many times, but for us it's also like, if a country does not allow Heilung as what it is to be there, why even invite us, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I would love to bring it there, and I think it could work fine. I have myself played around some of these countries that is not at the moment possible for us to go to, and it's lovely. It's lovely people there. There's a huge growing cultural scene and movement everywhere. It's just the law just simply does not allow us to play there, and
Mm-hmm.
that you also have to respect, obviously.
Yeah. Those shows, particularly in places like Australia, where they don't tend to get that many big artists because of that cost to get over there. It's much cheaper, for a 4-piece band to get there, and a lot don't because of the financial implications. So for Heilung to go there, that has to be appreciated so
Mm,
heavily by the fans that I imagine those shows feel a little bit extra because
mm,
they're almost craving this kind of
mm,
experience that they don't get. I'm very lucky that I've seen you guys a bunch because I'm in a very privileged position to do that.
mm. Yeah, you're right, and it is exciting also for us to go to a new place.
Mm.
Like the first time we came to the US, for instance, was also like a huge deal. It was really complicated to make that happen with the visas and everything, right? It's a very complicated country to come into, but once you are there, it's exciting. Same with Australia. Australia and New Zealand also has another layer of complexity getting there, right? First is, of
Mm-hmm.
course, obviously the distance there. We have to cargo everything there by air, right? Otherwise, we could wait half a year to get our stuff back, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but but then that is insanely expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you have this whole biocontrol, right? Specifically in New Zealand, which is even worse, right? And I fully respect that you should not bring stuff in that is endangering the local wildlife. Trust me, I agree, right? But the amount of paperwork and the risk of all your holy equipment being incinerated upon arrival if
Mm-hmm.
one letter is wrong on the paper, kind of thing, right? It's a little bit nerve wracking when you just,
Yeah.
you just risk your entire life, in terms of financial situation, house, everything you would lose if you fail, kind of thing, right? And you just sit there and you just know now your stuff is arriving at the border of this country, and if they don't like what they're seeing, they're gonna burn it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on site. So maybe some will be nice to send it back, but mostly that is the thing you can expect, right? So there is a lot of work, in forehand to even entering the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you're there, and you start to collect, you also start to understand why it's important we were there, and also why we want to go back, and keep on going back. I think like everywhere on the planet we see local original people suffer. Basically, their whole existence is under threat, and it's only it's hold on keeping that culture alive. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that is very important to help people and local native people to keep their identity and keep their culture, um, because I always believe, and the reason why I make music at all is I believe that if you look far enough back into your own culture and into where you come from, no matter where you are from on this planet, you go far enough back in time, stuff becomes the same. Yeah, instruments becomes the same, or at least
Mm-hmm.
same look. Maybe the resonator box on one instrument in one part of the world will be a coconut, and it will be something else everywhere. But the concept of a resonator and a string, for instance, is the same. Or in many other types of like percussive string instrument, it can be drums. Obviously, frame drums is a big thing, and other things. And point is, stuff becomes the same. So the further you look into yourself and your own culture, the more you're actually at the same time reaching out, because you're figuring out you're identical to everyone. And I find that handshake really important, because it's really difficult to make a proper handshake with other cultures if you don't know who you are yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, it's really really important to keep all these beautiful cultures and the diversity of it all around the planet. And quite sadly, history has told us that that has been a difficult thing to do, and a lot of people have suffered or been removed from the surface of the planet for being just them, and that is something I feel strongly for preserving, and
Mm-hmm.
that is what we do, and this is why we also go far sometimes, and yeah, we had a, for instance, in Australia, we had a fantastic walkthrough in the Aboriginal ghetto in and got to see uh, how they survived down there by having youth clubs and keeping it on a, keeping the whole thing alive, and it's a heartbreaking story, I would say, and important to remember, to preserve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the same goes for, of course, other continents. Also, we do that too, um, and we plant trees, and that's nice too. So
Yeah.
everywhere we go, we plant trees.
It's always so beautiful seeing the work that Heilung do off the stage, particularly with native cultures. you don't see it often with bands, probably because it's difficult to do. It's not easy to make these connections.
Mm.
Maybe some don't care. There's probably a lot of
Mm.
that out there as well. But because it's not only the experiences that you have, it also brings that to your audience, whether it's through social media or experiences. I imagine in some cases, what you learn then feeds through into the
Mm.
music sometimes, and it's a nice experience for everybody, and people get to come
Mm.
along on these journeys with you that they
Mm.
wouldn't usually get to learn about.
What do you think? Like, for instance, when you come to one of our rituals, what do you take with you? Do you take like a sacrifice with you, or do you like in any way take something that you need to let go of, or that people come with different things? I'm actually curious to hear what you bring there.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I've seen you through probably different iterations of my own life. So
Mm.
one of the I think it was maybe the first time. I think the first time I saw you was at Midgårdsblot in 2022. Was it? Was it 22 or 2022?
2022? I'm afraid I
I
don't
think.
remember years
I
that
think it's.
well anymore.
I think it was the one back after COVID when, and I was at a very difficult point in my life where I'd lost someone really close to me to suicide, and I was in
Mm.
a very different place then, and I had this experience at your concert that I'd seen. Like I said, it was the first time I saw you, and it was I'd been lucky enough to meet you all before, and we'd sat down and done a little interview in the camp that you had,
Yeah, I remember that. That was very
and
cool.
that was really nice. So I kind of got a sense of who you are. We'd spoke on the podcast before, so we had some kind of back and forth, but I hadn't seen the show, and I remember being there and kind of, especially with it being outside and open, having this moment of the bass hitting and the very primal connection to it, and just feeling. Like I said, it was very soon after the loss as well, and I think that there was a moment of almost like forgiveness in myself that
Mm.
happened, and a coming to terms with things. And it's kind of ironic as well that the performance was on this person's birthday as well.
Oh wow.
So it had this really beautiful thing. Obviously, it's a big gas plot with the burial mounds.
Mm.
It was a very it was I guess a ritualistic experience on a personal level of
Mm.
having this moment where things could be processed and let let go, let go. No, is that the right word? I could let things go and just understand that there is, something after all of this, and things will be okay. And it was really unusual for me to have that. I connect to music quite a lot, and I guess I'm quite emotional with music, but not
Mm.
that sort of thing. And it was, and I feel like it is that the primalness that comes with
Mm.
Heilung. You see this experience, you see the effort that you're giving, the energy is put out into the crowd. You feel, whether it's a literal ritual experience or it's just psychosomatic because of the environment that you're in, that everyone's on the same wavelength, everyone's listening to the music, everyone's in this. There
Mm.
is something that is going on, for
Mm.
whatever you believe, spiritual or not. Everybody leaves your shows feeling touched in a way, I guess. Like
Mm.
it's an experience, and it's hard to describe without, so I guess, to people maybe that haven't seen
Mm.
yourselves.
I
So
think I
that's the
think it's
long
a
answer.
wonderful, but it's the right one, right? And and what it leads me into is that you coming to one of our rituals is as important as anyone on stage,
Mm-hmm.
because it's also happening inside of you. Right? A Heilung show is not only something you see. It's not about the fancy lamps. Like if you think about the lamp, I already failed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You are there for something else. Right? We are creating a space together, and that has healing properties. I definitely believe that.
I,
And
I, I,
and
I abs-
everyone coming there. I mean, I know that some people like to put Heilung into a certain sort of, oh, they're like this, or they are probably politically motivated, or they're probably this, and they're probably that, and or what about all these people that plays on stage, and who is their grandmother or whatever? I don't know, but all of that, in my view, and I talk from one of the three founders of this project, right, is that none of it matters. What matters is what you bring
mm-hmm.
to a ritual and what you take with you home. and
Yeah.
and we use a lot of keys. Kai is amazing at controlling the whole spiritual aspect of this project, and I trust him fully in that. And Maria is a dear worker of me, of course, and we have a long history
Mm-hmm.
together, and also within music, and someone I trust fully, to have their both of them having their intentions correct, because you wouldn't be able to create a space like that if it was not. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, some people bring something else into it, and that's up to them what they want to do. What we can offer is we give you a key. You choose what kind of door you either want to open or lock with that key. That is you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that can be important. Like we play with many things. Like the beginning of the ritual, we play with your heartbeat, and we see similar. We see basically the same reaction no matter where we are on the planet. And by starting to elevate you, with a lot of bass, and everything is yay, and then we slowly over the course of 9 minutes take it down in tempo, and the whole crowd, no matter if you're 100,000, 10,000, or 1,000, everyone will react the same. They relax. It's like being massaged a little bit in your soul,
Mm-hmm.
and that opens up to, you will now have a space where you can actually dream a little bit. You are now no longer in whatever office mode you were in. You don't need to check your phone for Instagram photos or anything like that. You are actually here presented with the opportunity to look into yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that really important, right? I think a lot of dumb stuff happens for people that don't think about what consequences or actions they are causing by just going without thinking, right? Once in a
Mm-hmm.
while, we need to stop up and reflect over something that is dear to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then place like Bora, I think is a very nice location for that. And I know it's quite difficult to produce a festival like Niklasbrod in Bora, and in Norway in general. There's a lot of regulatives, and Runa is doing an amazing job in keeping that festival and that spirit alive. Also in a scene where there is a limited amount of bands or new bands coming, even, right,
Mm-hmm.
that can pull new audience in, right. And so she's doing an amazing job. But what is fundamentally true about that area is that it's pure magic.
Yeah.
You mentioning it yourself with the grave mounds, is it's not only the mounds, it's just also what's happening under them, right. There is a certain energy there, and you feel it instantly when you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a place that is kind of a home for us. That area. This is where
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maria and Kai met, and to begin with, doing Viking reenactment stuff. And Maria grew up there in the some of the houses right next to the campsite. Right, that's her childhood home, and
Mm-hmm.
some place I've been since the 90s, doing Viking markets myself, and grew up playing around those mounds, and and they are magical because they itself can present some of the stuff that we are trying to achieve with Heilung, right? Just sitting there for a day, under one of the nice trees that grow there, and maybe get a little bit of sun or whatever if that's possible, and so all of a sudden, just something starts changing inside of you, right? And it's up to you what do you want to use it for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Heilung as a concept never try to dictate you should do like this or else or something like that, right? Or join the whatever amplified history movement. I don't know what that would mean even. It would be weird, but what we can what we can do is we can turn on a little switch, right, for you to process something. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy for what you said there, and I really do believe that is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember a specific moment in the show of looking up to kind of to the sky and just feeling uh, just like a release of just whether it's we all feel guilt for things we do or for how things play out in life, and just that the release of that maybe you don't have to carry these things. There are other things that come after, and we went and did a ritual after with Mateus. We went
Mm,
onto one of the mounds and took our shoes and socks off and kind of felt
mm,
like grounded to the earth, and
mm,
that whole day and just was very healing for me,
mm,
and being able to kind of process everything that happened in the months prior, and then start to, because you don't just heal to a traumatic event overnight, but
no, no.
you can or well, not change your mindset. You can kind of have these moments that then help you to heal day by day, and it's built on. And certainly feel that Heilung show, and that's why I've always had such a connection to the band. And
Mm,
I will always come and see you if you're in anywhere in my
mm,
vicinity, because there is this very deep
mm,
personal connection to that, and I'll always be thankful to the three of you and the extended group
mm,
behind that I've been lucky enough to become friends with,
mm,
because it had that moment for me to just kind of breathe and
mm,
and stop. And it's interesting you saying how you notice that heartbeat and that kind of that build and the relax, because I probably had that where for 3 months prior to that I was probably 100 mile an hour trying to figure everything out. My mind's going, my emotions are going, everything is
mm,
go, 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 go. So maybe there was something to that as well, of in that moment of this, I guess it is a manipulation almost through music, of just
mm.
kind of relax, be, you're safe, you're in a place with friends, and
But we are literally playing with frequencies that we believe is doing stuff to you, right? Like
mm,
we should maybe have put up a disclaimer at the entrance or something, because we are really deliberately
mm,
putting in frequencies and producing stuff in a certain type of way that we believe will change something inside of you, right? I don't have to go too much in. It's very complicated, but it is really about bringing you to a place where you can experience. And I think, like, yeah, like I remember in the very beginning, right? Like the first time we played at Mika's Blod, I came off the stage and a lot of our family was there, a lot of friends we known for a long time, and everyone, right? And I just remember, like, the first one came like super excited. I danced through the whole thing. It was amazing. The next one, I cried through the whole thing. It was amazing, And the most funny one I got was like, "Oh yeah, you had the most people in the forest next to the stage having sex during your show." And I'm like, "Oh wow, okay, great.
yeah,
I didn't know that
everything.
was the thing, but sure, go for it,
Mm,
right?" I mean, I don't know how mama hippie. I don't know how that would function completely, but the point is, every experience is unique, right? And
mm,
every experience is something that people choose to take the moment for themselves, right? And I find that really extraordinary. We also, of course, we do also have people that goes the extra mile. We receive, for instance, a lot of gifts, of course, when we travel around, and some gifts are in the category of from everything from something that looks like a failed Picasso into to really amazing art, right?
Yeah, of course.
And it's anything in between, right? But then you also have like at one show we were gifted the ashes of a dead fan
Wow.
that is now came in and earned that is I have a small museum of collected objects from tours here at the studio, and that's one of the
Oh,
objects standing there, right? I just think that is so wow, right? It meant everything to
I
this
bet.
person, and this group of people around this person, uh, and on it hangs a crystal, and that crystal is made by my girlfriend that I now have a child with, right? What
Mm-hmm.
and small world. And
Congratulations. Was that made before?
yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't even know each other at that time.
Oh, what a. The world works in
What are the
a.
odds, right? It's
Yeah.
astronomical, and 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 so on. Like there's just all these different, uh, like the Heilung coincidence, right? Sometimes and not like there's all these I could go on for days. So I'll take another example. For instance, we played when we made the song Galgalder. It was made with a seashell this size that is made into a horn. That's basically a horn like wrapped up itself to 7 meters of horn, basically, right?
Wow.
This is a
Okay.
very fragile object, very old instrument also, but it's not legal to travel with because you cannot own these things. They're endangered, right? So we had to come up with a new instrument, right? That could do
Okay.
the same note. So Kai here finds his own drinking horn, and
Mm-hmm.
he carves a hole in it, and we blow, and it's exactly the same note. You know,
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
there's no chance that like it's not like slightly off. No, it's exactly that note, right? And I play it still live when I play Kelga,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what are the odds, right?
Yeah.
And there keeps on being these situations with this project where you go like, how is this even possible, right? And I think part of it is, of course, to open up to the concept that you cannot control everything. Something will happen in front of you, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
will evolve itself and becomes its own entity. And we cannot, as a traveling group like Heilung, dictate what we want you to feel, but we can push something to you and see what happens. But from there is chaos, right? It can
Mm-hmm.
be anything, right? But the general feeling seems to be that people go out with it and having achieved something, right?
Yeah. That
And
has
yeah,
so that has to be a remarkable feeling, but also this. Do you feel a sense of responsibility having this effect? I mean, because all music affects
mm,
people. All music is emotional. I'm a big crier to music. I think there's a term for it where I don't know whether it's certain notes or what just get me. So and is it? I'm awful at pronunciation. Is it? Do you pronounce it Anona? Anona? Your
the song
song. Just
Anuana.
Anwana. That's
Mm.
I'm so bad with remembering how to pronounce things.
Well, it's a dead
That's
language, so it's okay.
well, okay. I'm excused then.
You could be right
That
in the
the
way it
song
sounds.
that song makes me cry every time without fail, and it's just that kind of that build, that lift, and
Mm.
I have that with the certain songs that will do that to me.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously that's part of being a musician. But you guys take that to another level. It's you connect with the fans, like you say, you I don't manipulate feels like it's a bad thing, but you play with frequencies to invoke
Mm.
emotions, and you have these rituals, and people bring you these fantastic gifts, and people take life-changing experiences with them. Do you feel, I guess, a sense of responsibility with that?
Yes, I do. but I'm only like part of it, right? I'm kind of like the chauffeur behind horses. I don't know if it's called that. It's called something. I think we call it kusk in Danish. But anyway, like you are hanging on horses and you hope that they're gonna abide to whatever direction you want to control it, because it is running fast and it's going somewhere, right? And you better keep on like Anuana and generally that whole album Drift was interesting in many ways, because we were actually setting out making two albums with this album, and a sort of a dark side and a bright side kind of concept, where they will be manifesting into two things. And still a lot of it is there, so we'll see what will happen. But the concept more that we wanted a lot of things. We were also doing most of the recordings during the pandemic, so we have an extra long time at home to make this thing happen, right? And I think we ended up working 220 days on that album, which is a lot, right?
Wow.
And we just kept on working. We kept on trying to put it all through different things, but it just didn't want to become an album like that, right? That happens once in a while. I think a lot of producers and songwriters would know this feeling, that there is this type of situation where the work you're making is starting to become almost like an own life form in a way, in its own. It has an opinion of its own. If you try to put, let's say, a guitar lead on some place in the song, it actually don't want that. It doesn't fit the song. No matter what you try with equalizers or whatever thing you try to throw at it, it just doesn't work. It doesn't want that, right? And then you can either, as a producer and songwriter or a core member of Heilung, you can either decide that, oh, I'm just going to keep on forcing it forever, or I'm going to let go and let the work of art dictate on its own what it actually wants to be, right? And the whole concept of whether music or art is something that you are channeling from somewhere else, or if it's something that comes from you, or something in between, that really doesn't matter to me which one it is. But what the fact is that this album wanted to be something else in many levels. Like for instance, Anuana was one of the songs I think I have mixed the most times in my life. And every time I mixed it, every time I tried to make it all the classical things, making it loud, making it like out in the speakers as you would do, and do all the different things, it collapsed under its own weight. It just became boring. Is something got lost in it. There was like certain sort of frequency that just disappeared. It's like I could not feel the low end. So this song actually dictated a new direction finally, for not only how I produce music, but also how Heilung will sound in the future, and how it also set me on a journey production wise that I'm even expanding further. I can talk a little bit about it in a moment. And basically what it means is that for me, this was the definitive answer that Heilung should not be any longer like the two previous albums, competing in the loudness war. I needed to turn down the volume a lot, right? And that is very nerve-wracking, because that certain speakers cannot take it. And some people will think, oh, louder is better, because they if louder means more attention, basically, then it must be better. And
I mean, I've never felt bass like a Heilung gig. That sticks with me. I think it always will.
But that's what you get, right? When you turn down the volume, right? You get more resolution to do bass, right? But if you play it on an iPhone or something, you will break the speaker. If you try to get it as loud as the other song, right? And many people have probably done so already, right? So sorry for everyone that lost their speakers for that. But it was important to bring Heilung into a more immersive area, and that has brought us into a new journey where we are even taking the step further. I don't think you can see it really on the picture here, but I am completely surrounded by speakers in the studio, in a Dolby Atmos setup. And I'm also at the moment building a new Atmos room in this facility where we can do more video related stuff, because I really believe that is a technology where we can bring you out of the technology, so to say, and more immersed into what we are, by placing you auditorily in a place where you feels like you're there yourself, whether that is outer space or in a folk setting, right? And that is something we have played with also live, right? Like on Roskilde Festival, we completely converted the one of the biggest stages into a Dolby Atmos setting, which was really interesting to do. And then completely crazy project, and Maya Sound was amazing, helping us making this happen, and
Mm-hmm.
really really funny, and but also something we played with Ninja Theory and Hellblade, where they in of course on another platform than us are trying to achieve many of the same things that we are by trying to alter your state of mind. And there they do it also with sound, but also that you are being put inside of a mind in a of course virtual setting in prehistory, but she is having like hallucinations, she is having traumas and whatever, and you are actually being put inside of her mind of this sort of psychosis moment, right? And something that I find very interesting for a video game setting, that you can try to do the same things. And I think what it all leads down to is, how do I tell a story to you with a song like Anuana, without, dictating, here is a list where you need to know, actually, these words is ancient, Old
Mm-hmm.
Norse, whatever, and this means whatever, blah, 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 and you are supposed to feel like this, and skål, or something, right?
Yeah.
And no, this is not how I want to do art. I want to give you a piece of art, and when you experience it, you are in there, invested with your own body and your soul in it, right? Like you can
Mm-hmm.
do with one of the masterworks, right? And if I achieve just halfway there, it's a good thing.
There has to be an extra challenge, to, because you don't have the benefit of lyrics to get into people's heads per se. You don't have that, or you have lyrics, but not lyrics in English. I guess
We have one. We have a couple actually.
Yeah, but
And people seem to complain every time they understand exactly what we say, though.
well, but a lot of musicians, when it comes to playing with emotions, the lyrics are a big part of that. They can, they really can kind of get in and make you feel things. But yet you don't have that. But also, I would say I felt more at a Heilung gig than any gig I ever have. See, that comes down to you and your skill of playing with emotions through music. And where or how do you learn or begin to learn to do that? Because I assume there's probably not a book that says these.
Kai has an amazing collection of books on the matter, and I also have a pretty good one myself. And not the same size of Kai's, obviously. He has a library of his own on the matter. But I mean, actually, I do think language in a way has benefits, but just not in the normal dictating way, right? One way that I find really important. But just one second, I just need to let a little bit more air into my room, otherwise I will suffocate on the screen. 1 second.
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
We don't want to die.
A quick question whilst you're away. I assume you can still hear me. How long do you have? I don't want to keep you too long. Fine. I'm enjoying.
Okay. I'm drinking wine. I'm having a good time.
Have you got enough wine?
I have everything I need.
Yeah, perfect.
But I didn't know how long I subscribed for this, so just stop me when I'm talking too long, right?
No, I'm happy to keep you for as long as you want. I'm just cautious of keeping you too long. If you,
I have quite some time before I need to tour again, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, there we go. We've not even touched on music.
Where was that? Oh yeah, the language. So, as you know, and probably many of your listeners know, and I'm not going to sit and educate so bright minds, but we know that, you don't have to go very many years back in time. And most people around, for instance, Europe would understand each other from south to east to west to north, right? Of course, with differences. But at one point, we start to develop the concept of countries and borders and stuff like that. And as soon as you start putting walls around your communities, you are going to lose communication to the outside world, and boom, you start not understanding. A very funny example, and that is, for instance, in Norway, right? There is all these different dialects. I think there's 150 different dialects,
Yeah.
and some of them is like so different that you won't even understand it from one to another. And some, as a country of 5 million people like Denmark, right? And like there is like these examples of villages, where on two sides of a mountain they would talk a dialect that is vastly different from each other. But then one point, someone drills a hole through the mountain, in a tunnel, and all of a sudden they get to talk together again, right? And that, of course, they came up with the idea of making new Norse Norwegian, and no one really speaks that except of a couple of celebrities. But point is still that borders makes us not understand each other, right? And I think by taking old languages, you will find traits of what we are singing in the different languages. We do use quite a lot of different, from Old High German to Old Norse, and even Ancient Norse or Proto Norse, and other Old English, and other things. And of course, you will find traits of this in your local language where you're from. You will even find some of the stories is similar to maybe something you have been taught in school, or maybe remember as a bedtime story. And in that way, even though it is only a few words, there's something in this language that is fascinating to me in a way, and that it's kind of having another layer of melody in a way. Like it has like very often when we write music to some of these lyrics that Kai finds, it's usually Kai that, for instance, finds the source material, and this is what it's about, and this is what the story like. Like, for instance, Tenet started just with a drawing of the Satu Square laying on my desk as I came in with my coffee, and Kai was just sitting drawing, saying nothing, right? And my brain was just, and 2 years after, I wrote a song that can play the same backwards and forwards and up and down. But anyway, point is,
that I still can't put my head around how you did that.
It took some time. But but point is still, that language and lyrics has, a melody on its own, and if you just let it be there, the melody comes back somehow, right? And I believe that melody somehow is part of an even older original language that we all would understand, and that is very musically based. Because think about it, like most music, even though it has been developed quite a lot, of course, classic music has a lot to say with how we write modern music today, and different epochs in time has been, the founder of what frequency we are playing music in. For instance, modern pop music, meaning not Heilung, are still tuned in music invented by Germans in the 40s. We don't do that, obviously. We tune deeper than that. But point is, if you go further and further back into time, I think maybe a lot of our original language is some of these core elements, like you were talking about it just before. That this one note, that hits you, right? What if that one note, no matter what song it comes from, no matter what artist, whatever lyric, whatever language, what if that note is actually, or what the intention of that frequency or that note is from an older language that we all spoke once, right? And it's something that has somehow some of the core things, it, like for instance, like the four-chord song. I don't think they were sitting doing the four-chord song in the Stone Age, right, on stones. That would be very difficult. But maybe there's an energy in that. It's just an example, right? Or maybe another note, like a high C in some frequency, or a certain rhythm close to your heartbeat, or something that is imitating the sound of a bird or a predator, right? Maybe that's like a part of like a wolf howl. Maybe a wolf howl is a warning signal that we need to look out for a flock of wolves arriving or something like that, right? All these different sounds is music. But I think it's been in us. Like, where does this la 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 thing coming from children? Why do they know this song, right? Who made that song, right? All these different musically, attached, or artistically, like drawings, whatever, or any combination of the two. Where do they come from, right? I think they come from a language that is older than any known language we have. and we can connect to each other with that, whether we are playing amplified history, K-pop, or rock and roll.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think that because I get the original music will have been just vocal as well. I guess. Would I be right in saying that?
We don't really have any. Like, if I was only to play authentic instruments from the north, which is not a thing really, we only have more or less imported instruments that people have probably brought home as a present, right? And at least from back at that time, right? We haven't even found a single drum. There will basically be a little flute or something like that out of a swan bone or something, feather, and what is maybe a bagpipe and a few other things that definitely doesn't sound like music to my ears. So of course we are left with our voices to imitate, right?
Yeah, I guess the voices.
So that's a lot about that. Yeah,
the voice is always there, isn't it? Even the prime example is, I guess, the slave trade. When you strip people of everything, you still get music. You can't take the voice. You get some of the most beautiful soul music that comes from these horrendous acts. When you take everything that makes somebody human away from them, the voice exists, and that is true throughout all of history. So these kind of words, language, it has to be a through line through all of human history, and there are these little things that tie us together.
Yeah, and I think one thing we're trying to do with Heilung as an extra instrument is actually nature itself. So a big part of what I do in Heilung, next to of course also singing and composing, is trying to find some of these primal sounds that will resonate easily with a vocal, right? And we use any sort of nature sound, like a running water is a good like kind of a white noisy type of thing where you can draw out any note from, really, right? You can
running water makes me need to pee. Like
imagine producing that sound for 2 years.
I bet I don't. Well,
do you have anything left in you?
I used to be a plumber. So that was my previous life. I was a plumber for about 10 years. And I don't know if it comes from that, listening to water run and testing things.
And running to pee all the time.
Yeah, I cannot listen to running water without having to pee. It is so bad now that I'm just like, oh my God, I've got to go. Yeah. So I guess we didn't touch on it at the start. I mean, we've only really got into the technicalities of music. For most people listening, I always think of you, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, as the kind of mad professor behind Heilung. You know, the things that you look for and do are incredible, and obviously always thinking outside of the box. And every time I've come to see you and I have, a friend with me, I'll always say, you have Kai and Maria, who are these two powerful figures on stage. And one of the things I always say to whoever's with me is, just watch Chris. Like, that's where the kind of nerve center is. You can see you orchestrating everything just from the, because you don't take center stage. You're off to one side. You have everything set up around you. And yeah, you're not as stage dominant as Maria and Kai are.
And from the person that designs most of the show from that point of view, there is a reason, right? And it's not because I'm afraid of watching having my face in any way visible on the stage. I played professional music for all my adult life, basically, and also long before that, to some degree. When we were composing, you actually touched that subject a little bit earlier also. When we were composing, like the idea, how would the stage look, right? our original concept for the show would be, it would be circular, and people would be with us, kind of thing, around stage, right? But then we also quickly figure out, okay, we also have weapons. That's maybe not so smart if people are dancing into a sharp spear, or what if people fall over a drum, because sometimes it gets pretty crazy, right? And also the practicality of asking a festival or something like that to remove their main stage so there will be room for standing outside. Stuff like that is a bit complicated, specifically when you have never played live before, as it was back then. So we of course had to figure out another way, and I felt really like, what is important for people to see on a show, right? So I have painted myself more or less completely dark, right? And I'm standing more or less in the dark, hardly with any light on me, right, to the side. So I'm making most of you hear on stage, like musically, and I do sing a lot on. I'm quite busy on stage, but I don't want it to be the focus of the thing, because if you think too much, if you come in, oh wow, that guy really rocked the looper or something like that, you're already out of the feeling. Right, you already like the lamp. If you're noticing something is defect with a lamp or something, you already brought out of the feeling of what is important for you to come to an event like Heilung. And I don't want people to focus on anyone on stage. Like Kai and Maria, as strong figures they are on stage, they are also masked at the same time, right? So of course they are more towards the center, and like when you watch a television scene or a movie or whatever, you place things like on a widescreen more or less the same way you would place things on a stage to draw attention for different things, right? It's relatively rare you would see like the singer out behind the the monitor dude or whatever. It's there, you place stuff in a certain way on stage, and build up your stage around a concept that draws attention to what you want the audience to look at, right? So for instance, if I have to change something on stage, not me personally, but just something that's happening, right, I might turn off the light one place and then do a very, very flashy bright light somewhere else, so people look that way, and then I can, get rid of the things I don't want people to see, right? That's the classic, right? But at the same way, so I place myself for the majority of the show out of view for what is happening, right? So that it's only the music and only the feeling and the intention of what I'm doing and what the band is doing as a total that is hitting you, right? Because it's again you as the person coming there that has to, experience this thing, and not being distorted about, look at me with my wind in my hair or whatever, right? That can work in another setting, I get that show. But for a Heilung show, it's not about the people in it as much as it is about what feeling you're getting out of it.
So are you controlling all the different volumes and what kind of goes
like
out?
The live mix, of course, I'm not a squid yet, at least. So
you have to remember, I am very musically ungifted. I pretend I am a child.
Okay, so we have 3 people with us that deals with sound. So we have, and then we have, of course, locally also people helping, right? But like my long and trusted friend and colleague Finn, which is also having a studio here at this compound, is of course in the live situation trying to bring Heilung mix wise and technically and all these things. And that's a lot of art in doing this properly when you only have one chance, as that is now, right? In the studio, I can take it again live. The show goes on, right? And he's my go-to person whenever it is about doing stuff live or stuff like that, because we have a good connection and we worked for many years together with various projects. Then we also have, of course, people on stage that makes the sound for our own ears, so we can actually hear what we're doing and all that. A lot of it is done by the actor or the musician or shaman themselves. We have iPads for every person on stage, because like one person wouldn't be able to change the sound for 15 people at the same time. Okay. That is, by the way, dressed in black, standing in a black area without any light on them, right? You can't see them. And it's full of smoke also, right? So So you can't like I need more me or something like that
Mm-hmm.
to the monitor. So we are controlling quite a lot ourselves, but there is Kim that is helping a lot, and then we have Shobi that's been here for a few years with us, and he is on our on stage audio person, right? So all these people is working as one unit, right? So of course everything is orchestrated in a way. Even the crew is orchestrated. Even when we arrive at the venue, everything is like a piece of music, how it's been put together, how we get in and put it up and out. Even and also the light is of course the thing that takes a lot of time. But there we have also invented things where we can come in quick and out. But live, I'm my function live, I would say, is much to make the music part of Heilung happening, I would say. And I do that a lot with both instruments and my voice. So, for instance, I do use a lot of looping and a lot of manipulation on my own voice and all those things. So many layers of myself on top of each other. And the way we're doing that is, why we're doing it, it came out of the concept that on the first album we were actually, I thought it would never go live. So who cares about breathing? I would just cut out all the breathing pauses and stitch things together, right?
Okay,
And
yeah.
a few years later, like, oh fuck, we have to do this live. And what about breathing? And of course, even Kai with all his magic will have to breathe once in a while, right? And and then of course we needed more people to do some of our parts, but a big part of my part live became to basically live record my voice over and over on top of each other until it creates like an atmosphere and an arrangement that is more or less as you hear it on the album, right? And then I also do a lot with manipulating sounds and nature sounds and different frequencies that I will believe will resonate with the people listening and all that, right? And big part of my job is also to make sure that the whole thing functions. Like kind of like a conductor for a bigger audience orchestra, right? And that is both what happens on doing the show, but also very much in before and after, also making sure the whole thing is healthy for my part. But then, like, then you have Kai, for instance. His job is to make sure that these energies we are playing with from the other side, from under the hill, basically, is safe too, right? And that takes a lot of work. So we don't really overlap in our jobs in the core in that way. We all contribute with every different thing. I just never really felt we did actually try in the beginning where Kai, he made these fringes for me. And I mean, I look like a balloon in my face with these fringes on. I was like, how the hell am I going to stand and control all these instruments and all this with like thing dangling like this,
Yeah.
in the back? No. So we took it out, and it was very funny though. But they are somewhere. The fringes I never wore. And I never considered myself a shamanic worker like that. I'm deeply rooted through my family and everything to history and my own sort of spirituality in that way. But I never felt drawn to try to put fringes in my face and play a techno Viking at the same time. That would be weird.
Yeah, I imagine it would. I'd love to experience.
Imagine like Arthur Lothbrok going like,
yeah.
something with fringes.
But that's
probably a band like that now. I don't know, but
I'm
probably.
sure there will be. Yeah, there will be, because there's it's undeniable that in the Viking kind of space, there's yourself and Vodruna as these two pillars that just grew and became, like the heads of this kind of music genre, whatever it is. But because of that success, you have so many groups coming through now who are looking at the two and I guess basing themselves on it, or taking what you do and trying to maybe do their own thing with it and find this audience that is now available that maybe wasn't before.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it funny, and it's not to in any way diss anyone out there or anything of the comparison, right? But I find the genre of Viking music or stuff like that's funny, right? Because it's kind of like, I don't know, you take any random object like a wine, gin, I make gin music, it could be anything,
I'd listen to gin
but
music.
yeah, I would actually like to make gin music. It's tasting amazing. I should make a song about it. But relaxing times. Oh, that's another movie, and it was whiskey. But anyway, um, I think, and I think I'm pretty sure Aina would answer you the same, that is no such thing as Viking music. That there's music, right, and singing, right, and I think I'm happy that a lot of people is trying out stuff, and a lot of antlers and fringes has happened in other bands after that, and I find it kind of interesting, and it's cool. Do whatever rocks your boat, right? For whatever reason you find it interesting, and I also see a fair bunch of bands that very much have the same haircut as anyone in the Vikings, and sound kind of like a skell, like or imitate, try to sound like Vadrun or Einar, right? And I find it great in a way, because I think that is how folk is happening, right? Like a genre is born with when someone is doing something and other people find it inspirational and they do their own thing in it, right? I don't care what you put as your source material in your music. If you find it is good music, it's good music. It doesn't have to be about berserkers and Vikings and whatnot. It can be about anything, right? As long as it's true to you and where you come from and what resonates with you, right? I don't consider Heilung as Viking music, because if I did that, first of all, I would start to discuss what Viking even is. Who came up with the that name in the first place, right? Then okay, what is Viking music? Then what instruments are there? But we just discussed that would be a little flute and maybe a lyra that someone brought home with them from Constantinople or whatever, right? And then okay, but then what is Viking songs? Then actually we don't know. We have no idea what they sang at all. Like there was like one Persian traveler that went up and he thought we sounded like barrels running down a hill and howling dogs or something like that, right? To his fine intellectual cultural ear, we must have sounded horrible, right? Or maybe he just wanted to advocate that he was from a finer culture and he needed to get more funding to go back because it was really fun. We don't know, right? But what we do know is that we keep on finding little hints there and there, right? And we can put a puzzle together. And if I call it Viking music, I am kind of labeling it as this is the definitive correct thing, right? And already there, I am dividing people, right? Which is opposite of what I'm trying to achieve, right? I'm trying to combine people. I'm trying to together with my colleagues in Heilung to bring everyone together, and even say that even though that that we are different, we are still of same equal value, right? We are not equal, we are of equal value. That is kind of our concept for what we do. And if I come and say, but I have the answer, the one thing, like for instance, like I'm just a side comment, but one of the most funny comments we got on Heilung is that one wrote that there is only one God and his name is Odin, right? Like kind of a Christian way to put that forward. Right? But anyway, but if I come in and say we have the answer to everything, right? And this is the only authentic way. This is the only way it can be. Then I am dividing people, and first of all, that would be impossible to do. and second of all, it wouldn't make sense for what we're trying to achieve. And also, a lot of the stuff that we touch in Heilung is from way before, probably and also in my opinion, from a time that was even more interesting than the time where we started to become Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, I think, let's just call it music,
Yeah.
or amplified history, or whatever else sort of vague thing we can address something, and rather talk about what does it do to you, right? And I think everyone that has seen both, for instance, Vartona and Heilung and other bands will see that there's vastly two different things. It's equally beautiful and different in each respect and all that.
They're very different experiences.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, I hope that will come a lot more music that will be, it's completely own thing. Don't try to sound like someone else. Try to sound like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hope, and I know a couple of festival organizations that will love if more music came, right? That will become not a copy of a copy of a copy, or an inspiration of an inspiration of an inspiration, but a completely own thing that will maybe even surpass whatever fame and glory people believe we have gotten with what we do, right? I hope this awareness scene, let's call it that instead, awareness of your own heritage, your own culture, whatever. Let's hope that this can grow to a place where even more can get attention on it.
It's almost one of those bittersweet topics when it comes to the Vikings, because obviously I have the Nordic Mythology podcast, I have the business that's in the Viking scene, and
me too.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think it's one of these things where, without doubt, Heilung will have benefited hugely from the mass interest in Vikings that has been the last decade.
But you've done the reenactment too, right?
I've been to, sure, yeah.
Okay, so actually, my family has been connected to an English Viking group called the Joms Vikings. My dad is a Viking through the reenactment scenes, and I've been doing Viking reenactment since I was a child. Right, I was kind of born into the whole thing, right, and going to all these different ceremonies where we greet the gods and everything since I was a very small child. And my dad is a goatee within this, and I've married people on paper, and it's a big part of my life to live a heritage that is in common tongue known as Viking, right? But and going to Viking markets and doing fight shows and sell jewelry and whatever. Maybe not produced in
that is
but it looked like it at least, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But whatever, But what I, if you look at even, let's just take these Viking markets or whatever we call them, right? Reenactors markets. I don't think there's anything really authentic happening there. Like there's a lot of authentic material there, and you can go there and you can learn more. But I always considered them more as a celebration of our past or something like that, right? Because like people sit in their like glamping tents, they have a fridge behind the tent. The only way they could arrive at the market was in a Volvo with an extra, something behind to carry all their shit that they need to sell. How the hell would you do that on a horseback or something like that, right?
Incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I mean, like, and so on. And if you look at Viking markets, everyone must be kings because they're dressed like it, right?
Yeah.
So. And on top of that, we know so little, but I do find them important anyway, right? And I think it's out of this spirit Heilung even grew up, right? We're not claiming to be anything authentic or anything, and we're also not saying that you cannot call it Viking or you can call it whatever you like. I don't care, but I come very much from a scene where where we try to work with local, organizations and museums and whatever, and we live for some time in maybe in group houses or long houses and stuff like that, and try to put the cell phone away and live like people did once, right? And but is it authentic? Probably not, but we can try anyway, and
It
at
has
least have a good
benefit.
time while doing so, right? And learn something new, right? For instance, is this object, is that a religious thing, or is it maybe just a door handle, or is it correct that there was no windows in a longhouse? I mean, if you wake up with a hangover and bump your head into something in the dark, maybe there was some sort of light source that wouldn't suffocate you, right? So on, so on, right? There's fun things you can get to learn by doing these things, but claiming it is the ultimate truth or the correct and authentic only thing is impossible, and so it is with music.
Yeah, and obviously with Heilung, you use so many sources and material instruments that are far outside of the Viking Age as well.
Like a laptop.
The laptop, the iPads apparently that everybody has.
iPad word in Old Norse, I think, is the correct term.
Yeah. So you have, but also just like the source material. You said High German. You delve into all these different historic parts, but for some reason, get pigeonholed with that Viking thing. But
but
it has its benefits as well.
But even there, like let's take like the Norwegian rune poem we call the Nurubo, which is English short for Norwegian rune poem, right? And it was just what we called it in the notes, and it just kept on being called that for some reason. But anyway, when we were singing this, it was like we need to find an angle on it, right? And Maria, she ended up trying to sing this part in her local Bora dialect, her Vestfold Norwegian dialect, right? Which of course probably is nothing they would have sounded like back then. At least we have no idea. We have no recordings, right? Maybe we were lucky, astronomically lucky. Again, I don't know. But my point is more that you take something and you make it your own to make it authentic, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can say like what we're doing is not authentic, but we can be authentic people in it, right? And I think that is important, right? We write this in the Ofnir book, for instance, like that we are not aiming to tell you exactly how it was, but we are aiming to try to make you feel what it was like, right? And that way the only way you can do that is making it relevant for you today, right? There's this awesome book where you can see like how reenactment Viking styles has changed through the years, right? From the earlier, I guess the earlier English reenactors that came out of the Second World War reenactment, right? And then they became Viking reenactors, right? And then through that it has kind of changed through the years, and the haircut has been more fancy and whatever, all these things, right? And I find that hilarious, that how we project our current time into something to make it relevant, right? And I mean, just look at Conan the Barbarian, and then you take one of the Vikings episodes today or something like that, right? I mean, it has moved a little bit, right?
Yeah, it offers an escapism for the times, and whatever the culture is at that moment, it will always feed through into how you then recreate and look at history. Not even on a reenactment. I think even speaking to enough scholars on the podcast, you can see how the cultural times affect how scholars do their work. When they look at scholarly work from the 1940s and how they look to the material is very different to how maybe in the Victorian era, and that it has that effect that runs through.
Definitely. Like I've just received, my dad he brought some, because we're rebuilding the place, and he brought like I think it's a bronze shield of a Viking from the 60s. The way they're dressed in these shields is amazing. It's completely different than what we would imagine Vikings to be today. Of course, we also gain knowledge, as we find more in the ground. I guess that will touch something also, right?
Yeah.
Like they found on my home island, Amager, which is, I guess, a Danish way of saying on the field or something like that, in probably from Old Dutch. Like Kattegat, for instance, is not a Viking name; it's also Dutch, but whatever.
Yeah.
They found this little figure of a female warrior where you can see that she clearly had bound her hair up in a, and you can kind of get like a fashion idea of the time, and I find that really interesting, and there's something to go on there, right? But it's still just a little silver figure. We don't know exactly, right?
No.
But it's something, right? And I like you talked about before also that everything goes back to a human voice to interpret something, right? And I think like with everything, the ultimate factor of anything ends up at a human experience, right? Like no matter how big of a scientific experiment and how far we have to look into the background radiation of the universe and even beyond, if you believing in such things, they it will always end up with a human interpreting what it is you're seeing or feeling or experiencing and all that kind of thing, whether you are serving the astral plane or whatever other plane you are serving, right? And I think that is really interesting, right? Because I think not are we only receiving information from what we are trying to input, but we are also outputting something, and that is very much distorting what is happening in front of us, right? Because the only way we can make sense of stuff around us is to put part of ourselves into it. And in a situation like Heilung, that is really beneficial, because like in a Heilung life ritual, you bring a part of yourself in there as your sacrifice, right? And you go there with something new that you can take with you home, right?
Yeah.
And that is very much that sort of energy transfer that I believe in very much in anything in life, basically.
On a personal level, have you always been, I guess so, when it comes to music, I'm very much not musically gifted. When I've spoken to enough musicians on the podcast that I'm aware that I don't have the mind of a musician. I just don't hear music the same way. I don't have that capability. We're all made different. We all have our own different skills. But from all the musicians I've ever spoken to, you are the one who has always stood out to be unique in the way that when we've had conversations, the way you kind of look at things and how you speak about the way to manipulate things and the things that you can use. Have you always been like that? Has that always been part of you, that you've kind of looked at everything maybe from a different angle and wanted to use different items and objects and from nature? Did that precede Heilung?
Yeah, for sure. And Heilung is by far not the first project I've done within the historical context. I remember seeing one of the first Vadhuna shows in Norway, where we played there also with an older band of mine called Valhavn. And I've been dealing with different types of folk music and quest for figuring out stuff from my own past through my family also, right? I'm born in a musicality family. Like my dad was a musician also, and is still a musician. I play with him. He has his work here in the studio too.
Nice.
And music has always been a big part of. I come from a family also of inventors. Like my granddad on my mother's side was an inventor. He did very different things. He did these amazing complicated toy cars where you can collect them only with one screw, and they're like worth a lot today. But he also designed guns. So it's kind of two different things to do.
Very, very different.
But for sports use, he turned down any offer for using it for actually hitting other living beings.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have been able to afford a lot of more instruments today.
Yeah, maybe it would have all looked very different.
I'm happy he took that route, of course. But I think he's kind of like inventor brain. I think that is what I think I have inherited somehow. Because I like being challenged and see complicated things
Yeah.
and try to solve it, right? Also, sometimes overcomplicate things that is both professionally and also personally, right? And I can come out on
I
the other end and like, what the hell? Why did you do that? Why didn't you just do that 20-80 rule, right? Why did you have to go 1,000% again, right?
yeah,
But
I
then again,
understand outside of the music kind of analogy, I can appreciate that mindset. 'Cause I have that. Whatever
yeah,
that is, where whatever I do, I have to do it 100%. I have to like, put it all in, but also I have to overcomplicate things sometimes, and not just to overcomplicate, but I have to like strip it apart, understand it, figure out why it does what it does, and maybe then look at it from different angles and see if there's an easier way
yeah,
to do
yeah,
it or
yeah.
a better way to do it. Like that is very much something I can relate to. Of just, if I've heard from friends, family, partners of like, why can't you just relax? Why can't you just sit down? Why do you have to
Mm,
find the next thing, do this thing? Why can't you just leave that alone? And that is,
mm,
so that I relate with that.
mm. And that really brings it into a very, very interesting thing that I would think we should discuss, because why not? It's a nice
Absolutely.
topic. So it has a little of a build up. So mind me, okay?
I've got my gin.
So first off, go cheers or skål or
Skull.
skål, as they write on YouTube, which means flush in Danish.
Oh, really?
It's really funny.
Okay.
But anyway, this whole obsession with making and everything is really funny. But anyway, I am a fan of the process. Right? It's kind of like an ending in 70s music on a boom, and this whole amazing thing just ended on a short note, right? Where it's not about where we end up, in other words, it's about how we get there, right? And they can go away all these different things. There's a lot of people, they are more focused on getting there, and how we get there doesn't matter, right? I'm very much the opposite. I'm all about how we get there, and what do we learn on the way, and what once we are there, what do we take with us to get further, right? The process, basically, right? And that leads up to everything I do in life, right? I've produced hundreds of albums and done most genres already, right? And if I wanted to make a song or a stage show where everything was focused on me, a light, and you would see all the fancy instruments I have and whatever, and all these things, I could do that, right? But I don't find that interesting at all. I like telling stories. I like not only for showing you, but also for learning myself this story along the way, and get attached to it emotionally, right? Like using 2 years on making a song that plays in two directions at the same time. That is not making your life easy. That is making it hard.
Yeah.
Like
But there's
that's a
an
perfect
achievement.
Kennedy quote right there, right? But
But I get that, because it's that mindset of, well, I think it can be done, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. It doesn't matter how long it
no,
takes, and you'll obsess over it. It's like
it
I
does not
know
matter
it.
how long time.
Yeah, I
No.
know it can be done, and I'm like that, and I guess I have this maybe toxic trait, I don't know, of where I feel like I can do anything if I put my mind to it. I've got
Of course you can.
this belief in myself of that if I like, even though I say I'm not musically minded, there's a part of me that thinks that, yeah, but if I spent a year learning and studying music, I could figure it out. And
I think
that's
you should come to my studio, and I will give you a couple of rhythms you need to learn.
a triangle.
No. A square. No.
A square.
But a circle. But anyway, I would love to teach. I believe you can teach anything to anyone. I know this. I can tell I have tried that literally in Heilung many times. So with some of the people that work there. So I'm kind of proud with that.
Okay.
But anything, I think if we go back on this whole process thing, right? Why we do stuff for the process and what we get out of ourselves, and also like if you're presented with a piece of art, let's say one of your beautiful carved horns or a painting or your podcast even, or some of these videos you do where we are gonna learn something from a historical place where you put up in a nice, way to understand what's happening. There's an art form in how to, as you know, probably to catch people attention on something that you feel that you want to get out, right? That is art, no matter if you are banging a drum with a bunch of shamans or if you are carving a horn for yourself, or like our drum builder Egerman that sits alone, and scrape and can hear when the skin will sound nice and all these things, right? There's something you there's something in it, you do only for you, right? And that is the only competitor we have in nowadays time. And now comes the thing I wanted to touch, which is AI, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Because we have this whole discussion in all sorts of, every time AI comes into a new art form, or like people are, they're never gonna come into my field, and then AI enters the door and like, oh my god, what do I do, right? They are stealing my music, or they are, doing this and that, and what about money for the artist and all these things, right? And of course, any artist should be able to live from the art. I wouldn't be sitting here for the majority of my life. I've worked and lived by making art, right? But I wouldn't sit here if I didn't earn anything on it, obviously, right? And if an AI could come in and do my job, I would be fucked, right? I get it, right? But we have to boil it down to what is art then, right? First of all, we need to determine, is art something only for people? Like humans, is humans the only one to make art, or is the gorilla that has been in captivity all his life painting itself in a forest, is that art? Or the elephant standing, probably sadly being whipped to do so, painting as itself, is that art, right? Are we as humans the only ones that is able to do art, or is the fish under the water drawing nice things to catch a mate or whatever doing art too, right? Or the paradise bird? And so comes in a concept that I have been looking into a lot. So there's two aspects of it, right? There's the imitating part of art. Is that art even, right? So, and I'm not neglecting anyone here, but like elevator music or hotel lobby music or background music to whatever YouTuber doing something that just needs some generic for their Apple East commercial, whatever type of music, right? It's basically most of it already been produced with a lot of, let's say, plugins in a studio or instrument samples or riffs, that's been put together in a way, in an easy to produce thing, and it's assembled out. And now comes in a machine that has studied how all this generic thing sounds and is outputting something that sounds more or less the same because it's relatively easy to copy, and it's doing it at a fraction of the time, and it's cheaper to do. So obviously, elevator music and other things will in the immediate future be AI, probably, right? If it is not already, to some degree. Then you have, like, same with generative art in pictures, movies. You see a lot of these crazy, like, sci-fi-ish movies coming out, clips, of this, like, wow, how did they do that? Oh, it's AI generated, and you go like, part of your brain go, bummer, and part of your brain go like, wow, that's fascinating, right? Or we can do something where we can imitate even, something, 3D print a horn or whatever, and make it look like Daniel's horns or something like that, right? And it will output it in the fraction of the time. But what it cannot do, and what is really important, is that we as humans, and at least the way I do art and the way we are established, we are agreeing, is that we do stuff for the process, right? So that is what matters to me. I never started making music like Heilung for saying like, I need to be famous and I need to go and be rich and all these things. No, I made it for me first, and for Kai and whatever, we made it for ourselves. I would be happy if it was only my mom liking it. She does like it, so it's good. But
good.
But I mean, I'd never made it, to conquer the world with it, right? Like that. Even though that is, of course, having stuff that is aiming to alter your state of mind, right? So maybe I put a little bit of sorcery into it, but still, the majority of it was the happiness of doing something for myself, and the, sitting and really nerding into the whole frequency and all these fractals and all these different crazy things you can put into it, and nerding the history with Kai and Maria and all these things, gave me a lot in the process, right? That you can never achieve by just pressing the AI button and poof, out comes a song.
No,
I tried
exactly.
to go to an AI and make me a picture of Heilung on the moon playing jazz or something, right? And it does it in 5 seconds, and I can say like ha ha ha, but 5 seconds after I forgot it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it means nothing to me. But will in the future then AI be able to make art? Probably. We are creating a new being in our image that is alien to us at the moment, right? But it is growing conscious, I guess, right? And whether we like it or not, in the future, probably it will start to blur the lines even, and we will probably question ourselves: are we just meat computers with a programming or something like that, right? Or can we apply digital animism and say like if we are animistic in our old Norse beliefs or whatever, and think everything has a soul, even if your chair and my glass of gin has a soul, right? Doesn't the AI then, that doesn't want to be switched off, and by the way stands there and play guitar and sings about Odin, techno Odin, doesn't that have feelings then?
Yeah.
And when am I convinced, and when is my belief being pushed to a place where I believe that digital being there actually feels love? And I just questions back to what kind of art do you do for yourself, right?
It's it's a scary world we're going into, and but it's a fascinating one, as you say. It's
I like it.
that you have all these mixed feelings around it. But for me, art, whether it's Heilung or whether it's what I make, it's because it's not perfect. Nothing is. I'm sure you every show you play, even if it sounds perfect to the audience, to you, it's never 100% perfect. Someone will miss a beat. Somebody will do something, and that's what makes it human. And I guess you can't imitate. I guess maybe AI will be able to imitate it eventually.
Yeah, they hallucinate too, right?
Yeah,
They output something that is definitely bullshit, and you go like,
yeah. But same with like the horns that I make. There will always be an imperfection to it. The carving will never be 100% as if you just drawn it using Photoshop, and the lines will be crisp, because it isn't. It's made by a human, and that then I think adds value to it. And I got into making the horns because I made one for me, one that I really enjoyed and wanted to make, and that was the process. And I think that's where a lot of success stories come from. Of this, it's not about the money. You get artists that come up now and time and time again that you can see it's very superficial and it's manufactured, and maybe it works on a Disney scale, but on a lower level, that kind of gets sniffed out. I think humans have good bullshit sensors, and they can tell when somebody is authentic, when somebody's making something authentic, and that probably or does lean into the successes of Heilung, because you are certainly at the core three very genuine people who we've spoken about these unbelievable chances of things happening. The fact that you three met, and
that's
then
insane.
Create, you all have these such complementary skills, Kai with the spirituality side, you with the music. It all just comes together perfectly to then form.
Yeah, because the three of us is fascinated by history, right? That's what brought us together. It was actually meant to just be me recording Kai for some poetry in my studio for a few days, and then he will give me a tattoo, bam, bam, because his friends back home missed his funny stories. He make these amazing, stories, and we got a couple of them down already, right? But then, of course, it became sounds, and then can you sing a little bit, and bang, boom, Heilung, right?
Yeah.
And Maria's, of course, added her voice to it also, and everything. And I mean, it is the process that is fun, right? Like having in my old studio, I lived next to it. We had like our own house as an appendix, like on the top of an old car workshop or something. And I had a little garden, and I was hanging outside of a window recording Kai doing this bull roar, because it was the only place I could have it. He would hit the microphone stands inside, and my studio was not that big back then. And he was just standing out in the sun, bare chested, and we recorded the sounds with Chris like that, and he was like standing and screaming, and Maria was coming home like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? What are But that fun, innovative things. How do we solve? Or I need a bass sound for El Danzorin, there's this boom, boom thing that come in. That's actually just me standing with a piece of lumber hitting my garden bench, with a microphone under it, right?
Wow.
Because I put up a dogma, like very much like some von Trier movies where they put a dogma and they cannot use lighting, they cannot, have any set designs or anything, but just stripes on the floor or whatever, right? Like I put a dogma, for instance, for Chris, I can only record it outside. More or less, the whole song is recorded outside, and also I cannot use any modern instruments, right? But I need to imitate like weapons and stuff like that. It is about a song about war, after all, right? So I and of course I have a sword, but as you know, like a reenactment sword doesn't sound that fantastic, right? It just sounds like a piece of steel. So I was using like garden, tools and whatever things I could find that could make like a stump type of Foley art or something like that, but outside, right? That presented its own thing. But that whole process of doing that was what made the song with that energy it has, right? That would never happen if I go to vikingsamples.com or whatever. I don't know if it's a thing. Sorry.
Probably exists.
And press I want the Heilung vibe, and you just download the something,
Yeah.
that would never happen.
You lose the soul and the humanity from it.
Because how to get there is the art, right? And for you, for me, right? Because it also makes it unique. If I just download a sound and it sounds like everyone else, what makes me unique? And I'm fine with an AI actually going in and clearing up that area a little bit, forcing people to innovate,
Yeah.
To challenge people on the things that has been done, so that there is more room for people to do something that has not been done.
Yeah.
Because everyone is unique and there is no right way here. There's only one way, and that is your way, and whatever works for you, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I've been thinking of AI recently as, I guess, almost like the Industrial Revolution, and bringing in the automated looms and into the factory. Certainly, where I'm from in
replacing human labor.
Yeah, in Yorkshire, in England, and you had the whole era of the Luddites who would protest and go in and smash up these automated machines because they were angry about it. But and in that moment, and obviously I can't put myself there, but I imagine those workers thought there is no future. What are we going to do? There will be no jobs. Kind of similar to how people feel today with AI. They think, there aren't going to be any jobs. There aren't going to be this. There aren't going to be that. But the world does keep moving, and we've seen this kind of thing before. That doesn't mean that I'm necessarily in support of AI. It just means that I think it's another cycle of kind of this thing of being a human, and it will create other jobs in other areas and other industries. And anybody who's been on social media for any period of time is probably sick of this slop that we get fed day in, day out, of the same thing, the same kind of song that's played over the top of it. So maybe it will force innovation for people to think outside of the box, because again, going back to that thought of humans having this built-in bullshit radar, that people can spot what's disingenuous. So maybe, if things are filled with AI, then those moments of authenticity stand out.
Sure, but still, you still have to consider that we at right now is at the time where, I think it was Marcus Brownlee talking about this in one of his AI videos, right? He's really cool YouTuber, and he talks about this concept that we are right now at the lowest part of the technology. It's only going to be more crazy from now on. Like the famous example of AI generated video is, of course, the Will Smith eating pasta or something like that, right? 1 year it looks like completely morphed and crazy, and you can laugh how crazy it looks. But 1 year after, or 2 years after, it looks exactly like Will Smith eating pasta, right? And I think we can sit now, but it will one day do, right? And but this whole, as you also are touching on the automation part, right? We are automating stuff so that we can focus on doing something else, right? Like a very known thing in music production, for instance, is that back in the day when we were doing recording to tape, we had a bunch of people sitting with the attenuators or the faders on a desk, right? And they will, with the orchestra, turn it up and down so that they wouldn't damage either the hardware or distort on the tape, right? Or saturate the tape too much. Also because it's expensive, you only have one take, and you have 50 people sitting and playing, right? So therefore, they invented the leveling amp, which is today a compressor or something like that, right? As an automated fader on maybe a group and stuff like that. So, and there you automated out a person which job was to sit and read the notation and turn up and down for the music, right? And now you have a machine. Today, that's very much the same machine, or any other electronics machine that has replaced humans, whether that is a Roland 808, like a drum machine that we thought would replace drummers, right? Has become its own thing, and it goes forward, right? I think AI generated music and videos will just become its own thing that you eventually will actually grow past imitating us. It will be as good as us, and then it develop even crazier in one way where we can never follow, right? Today, a drummer would never play some of the crazy beats you see on or maybe mundane beats you see on modern pop music, which is still these 80s drums machines, through that very, maybe a digital clone of that old compressor, but it's literally doing the same thing that was just invented to replace a human, right? Now we call it style, retro, warm, whatever in production, right? But it was actually just an automated system, right? And I think AI will surpass us very quickly. Sound like Heilung, not of course giving us the experience and all these things we talked about. Maybe it feels it itself in a fraction of a second, and a transistor go like, and it feel like or something. I don't know, but it will probably develop even further and becomes an own thing, and then we can go back to being slow humans.
Yeah, absolutely. To touch on that, you said something about AI surpassing humans, and then that got me thinking that then will just inspire humans maybe in a different direction that we hadn't thought of. If you have AI creating this music or art that's so weird and fantastical,
definitely,
that then leads to human inspiration and innovation.
Yeah, because now, like when we're observing the universe, right? Like one of my favorite quotes is like gold, for instance. Gold can only be created inside a giant supernova, like I think 3 levels from our sun, and that blew up, became a cluster of stars. That blew up, became a cluster of stars, and then somehow it ends up to our planet somehow, right? And a tiny little fraction of gold is part of being a human. Like there's a little building block in us that is gold or something, right? And that way, we could only be made if that extraordinary events of things happen, right? So in a very real way, we are like universe looking back at itself, like flipped on the outside and asking, what are we, right? And that is us basically built in, having this thing where part of us is projected onto, the whatever we do, and it is coloring whatever we are seeing. Like sci-fi has inspired science and back again, right? Through time, right? And we see that also with history inspiring art in what we do in Heilung, of course. But it's also, I think, us creating. We have 1,000 movies with Judgment Day and Terminator. We have all sorts of movies telling us that if we create and push the AI button, we're gonna die. right?
Yeah.
And still we do it, right? We don't push the button. Of course, we're going to push the button. Like one of the known pieces of art from a Danish artist, I think was that he put a goldfish in a blender and a button saying, "Do you dare?" That was the art piece, right? And of course, some people press the blender and the goldfish go like, you know. And there is something in us. We want to push that button, right?
Yeah.
And we want to do it because we want to see what happens next, you know. And hopefully that is something good we can bring back artistically. I would love that AI is bad at playing guitar rather than they presses the nuke button or something like that, right? I give them, take my Heilung, you know, play Heilung. That's fine. You know, I'd rather do that than any other bad thing it might learn, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe that can inspire me back.
But I guess Heilung is in this unique position that AI could never perform live.
But what if we have like a robot in our warrior choir next time, like for equality, you know?
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? Maybe one day. I saw these robots that they're working for like Amazon workers that they're developing. And they just
but they have been running humans around like ants and robots anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
They have, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they have, yeah. All right, let's wrap up the main show. Then we could
talk forever. I can feel that. You know,
we could, yeah. We'll let people ask some questions. We'll wrap up this, and because there's some questions in the chat. Because I know we'll just end up chatting for another however long. Yeah, exactly. So we'll wrap this up. Christopher, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and hanging out, drinking gin and wine. And I feel like I've learned so much about you, and I'm sure everybody else will have learned so much about you and what goes into Heilung. I guess, are there any projects you're working on that you want to shout out or anything that you
half of them is still like signed with a pretty hefty disclosure thing, so non-disclosure. So I am working on quite a lot of interesting things right now.
Good.
And all of it bounces back to this whole immersive sound. I'm doing a lot of artists, and many of them has already been talking with you, and many are also probably gonna talk to you. And then there's of course my own project. One of the more crazy things we're doing right now is because we need to expand the capability of doing immersive sound. Is that my good friend Martin, which is also employed in my company for a lot of things, among others producing Heilung shows on like the touring Heilung, right? He came up with the idea that I was planning to do like an editing suite in the room I've just taken over. He came up with the idea that we need to build a cinema. So we are building a cinema. A small cinema, of course, right? But it's going to be like a hybrid between a listening environment and a cinema, small, I think 8 seats or something like that. And it brings all my child back in, you know, like thinking about, you know, like what movies did I watch when I first came into the cinema? That vibe, you know, I want the old popcorn machine outside, right? You know, and everything, you know, like all these things, you know, like get that vibe again. Because today we just sit and bounce on, you know, like on a streaming service or something like that.
You can spend as much time searching for something to watch as actually watching something.
Yeah, but just like, and I bought a lot of 80s movies, you know, 90s, you know, movies that had that vibe, you know, when you came to the cinema. And I wonder how far they got now in special effects or how they did that vibe, right? Like being a child again a little bit, you know.
There's something,
and we have a lot of children connected to people that is here in the studio, and it's probably going to be also something they will enjoy when we, of course, is not using it for professional stuff. So we're doing a lot of interesting things.
There's something so beautiful about the cinema, because you think of the cinema, you think of like just a visual medium, but the sound is so important. You know, if you see anything that Hans Zimmer has scored, it's incredible. But then you get, the smell of the popcorn, the pick and mix sweets that you
But
get
also,
on
like
the.
the whole concept, let's go to right. We can of course just put on our Apple Vision Pro, shut off the everything, right, and be alone with our movie, or sit like with our earbuds on the airplane and look into a screen so no one can talk to us, right? But there's something about the cinema, We went to the cinema and ate popcorn together. We laughed at the jokes in the same movie with a crowd, much like going to a live concert, right?
Yeah.
It was a social idea, a cinema.
Yeah, I'll never forget
and
when I went to see Borat. Do you remember the film Borat? I went to see that in the cinema, and it was like a sold out crowd. Obviously, Sacha Baron Cohen being English, Ali G. That whole thing was a very much me growing up. And I went to see Borat. It was sold out, and I don't think I've ever laughed at a film so hard because everybody else is, and it was like the whole crowd or audience was a living and breathing thing in that moment, just laughing and kind of almost egging each other on.
And that is exactly what sold me to the concept of building a small cinema here instead of just yet another studio room, right? A boring studio room where you sit alone and you do your art. And once you achieve something that you have worked on for years, there's an empty room, you go like, yay, yeah, I did this, right? No, we can celebrate art together, right? We're going to put in a quite nice sound system in full Dolby Atmos, completely oversized for the room, of course. But that is also part of the joy, right? You can't buy happiness, but you can definitely buy studio gear. So that is something.
Oh, I'm going to have to come and visit it one day and see.
You definitely have to come visit and see this.
It looks,
I will give you popcorn.
Oh, well, I'm sold. Popcorn and gin. And you,
like in the dispenser.
we're sorted for life.
Yes.
All right, we'll wrap this up because, like I said, we're going to do some questions after. So, if you want to hear more of this, head over to our Patreon /Nordic Mythology podcast. So that's from £3 a month. You get the Q&As in there, and there's always that extra little bit where we, get to ask the guests some questions. If you want to follow me, it's Daniel_Farrand1, Nordic Mythology podcast, obviously for the podcast, or Horns of Odin for the business. And then, not that they need the help, Amplified History on Instagram.
I'm not really I've changed my pictures once on my Instagram, I think.
Yeah.
That's about it. So don't follow me. Just don't. It's boring.
Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't bother asking you whether you had it anyway, because I already knew the answer.
I don't have time. I'm working. I don't have time for this.
You're a busy guy. Christopher, thank you so much.